In the book of Job, there is a very important statement. The statement says, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men while slumbering in their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Your subconscious mind is most comfortable when you are unconscious. You are unconscious when you are in your sleep state. And in your sleep state, your subconscious mind is busy at work. And it's so important, I call it the last 5 minutes of your day. So you get into bed, every day you get into bed, you get ready to go to sleep. And you are now you're in that state between being awake and being asleep, where you're getting drowsy, and you are going to marinate for the next 8 hours in your unconscious, subconscious mind. You're preparing your marinade. And the question is, how do you want to prepare yourself for having your instructions sealed? Your ears are opened and your instructions are sealed. So most people use the last 5 minutes of their day as they're about to enter into sleep to review all of the things that they don't like, and all of the things that didn't work, and all of the people that hurt their feelings, and all of the stuff that is going on in their life that they wish weren't happening. This is their worry time. This is the time when you fill your mind with all of this stuff, and then you go off into sleep, and he opens your ears and seals your instructions while you are slumbering. That's right out of the book of Job. So what you want to do is reverse this practice, because your subconscious mind is listening to how you are asking the universe to provide for you what it is that you would like to attract or manifest into your life. And if you fill your subconscious mind with all of the things that you don't want, that you don't like, that make you unhappy, that make you depressed, that make you worry, then your subconscious mind, which is impersonal, and remember, it can't make a distinction between what it is that you are feeling as a result of what you place into your mind or what is actually happening in your life. It doesn't distinguish one from the other. It's totally impersonal. It's just open to suggestion. And here you are suggesting to your subconscious mind, which will, when you awaken, you will align with the universal subconscious mind, the one mind. You know, there's millions of people out there in the world. There's millions of you watching this program. And you can see the difference between each and every one of you on the basis of your appearances. But there's only one mind. That's what the great spiritual texts all teach us. So now, if you program your subconscious mind to tell yourself, to go over all the things you don't want, all the things you don't like, all the things that shouldn't have happened, all the ways that you were mistreated, all about how terrible the economy is. And, you know, we live in a fear-based world. You want to shift away from that kind of consciousness and use the last 5 minutes of your day to program your subconscious mind with what you have placed into your imagination with your I ams. I am well. I say it to myself every night, especially when I get into that state, you know, that weird state where you're sort of half awake and you're half asleep, and you know you're heading towards that sort of that subconscious place. And I just remember what it says in the book of Job. I don't want my instructions sealed by going over, I am sick, I am poor, I am unhappy. I just say, I am content, I am lucky. When I wake up in the morning, I don't say, oh, good God, morning. It's the reverse. I say, good morning, God. You know, it's like being grateful rather than being in that place where the things that you don't want are what you have programmed your life to be. I always think of this as, like you have a currency. And if I were to give you currency to go out and purchase what you want, and every place you went, you took this currency that you have to purchase what you want, and you purchase what you don't want, and then when you get home and you wonder why your house and your life is filled with everything that you don't want, it's because you're insane. That's just insanity. It is. I mean, why would you take the currency that you have to buy what you do, that's there for what you do want, and spend it on what you don't want? Well, the currency that you have for attracting into your life what you would like to have are your thoughts and your imagination and your I ams, your God consciousness. Why would you use it to say, I am unable, I am unlucky, I cannot, I will not? You're throttling, that's what it says in the I am discourses, you're throttling that great I am presence that is located within you. And so the last 5 minutes of your day, as you're about to marinate for 8 hours in your subconscious mind with your unconscious state, you want to go into that state, even if your senses tell you, oh, you're just fooling yourself and so on. You don't want to use your senses and the internet and other people's opinions, what you see, what you hear. You want to let go of all of that and recognize that anything that you want to attract or create for yourself in your life begins with what you have placed in your imagination and have assumed the feeling of that wish fulfilled, and now you're going to practice it.
There are a couple of quotes that I want you to look at that I put right up here for you. The first is a very important concept. Never underestimate your power to change yourself. Never overestimate your power to change others. And the reason I put this quote out right here at the beginning of this program about excuses being gone is that no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, no matter how long you've lived, the promise I have of this program is that if you follow the steps that I am going to outline here for you, that if you've been overweight for your entire lifetime, if you've been addicted to anything for your entire lifetime, if you've lived a life of poverty for your lifetime, if relationships haven't worked for you, whatever it is, however long it's been with you, that there is a way to change those habits and to change the thinking that supports those habits. I've come to know that. I've written an entire book about it. I believe in it. I've been practicing it not only in my own life, but with other people in workshops all around the world. And I know that there is something that you can do about them. You can indeed change anything about yourself. Don't underestimate your own personal ability to make just that happen. The second quote says something that is responding to what it is that you have to do to make that happen. Lao Tzu spoke about this in the Tao Te Ching. When you correct your mind, everything else will fall into place. So whatever these habits are, whatever it is that you have lived with for a very, very long time, it's about don't underestimate your own ability to change it, and if you work at correcting your mind in a very short amount of time, you can go from someone who had these habits to someone who's living at a very different level. I did a program not too long ago here for public television called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And it was based upon the great teachings of Lao Tzu 2,500 years ago in the Tao Te Ching that some people call the wisest book ever written. In that book, what I learned and what I tried to offer to the public who watch public television, it taught us, and it taught me, what to think. What ways to go about thinking that we didn't before. So many of us who grew up here in the Western world believe that you have to always strive, that you have to work hard, that the harder that you work and the more you set goals and the tougher that you are, the more you get done. In Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, I learned to think flexible, to think soft, to become humble, to be non-interfering, to remember that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that step. Live in the present moment. You look at this beautiful set here, and this staircase is, I asked them to create it because it is the result of a quotation from Mark Twain. Habit is habit, and not to be flung out the window by any man, but coaxed down the stairs one step at a time. You almost think of yourself as at the top of this staircase. And each one of these steps on this staircase represents a way that we have of thinking that in the end keeps us either stuck in that habitual way of thinking or changing those thoughts and no longer identifying yourself as someone who is stuck, who's had a destiny imposed upon them. The idea that because you've done it for a very long time, or because you've lived with a particular habit for a very long time, is not a reason that it has to take a very long time to change it. If you're committed to that change and believe in it and follow the steps, one step at a time, you can emerge from this staircase. I told them I'd like to walk up this thing, but it's hanging from a thread up there, and I think that could be a mess, all right?
Now I'm going to focus on how you can stop giving energy to the things you don't want and the things you don't believe in. But why would anyone, let alone you, want to give energy to what you don't want and what you don't believe in? Let's go back briefly to those 7 little magic words, as you think, so shall you be. This universal law applies both ways. When you put your thought energy on your intentions with passion, you ultimately will act upon those thoughts, and you are bound to attract what you are thinking about into your life. This law also works to keep you from attracting solutions for your problems into your life. How does this work? Your mind is active all day long with some 60,000 separate thoughts. Examine those thoughts. How many of them are on what you don't want? With my luck, it'll never work out. This cold is getting worse each day. The deal will probably fall through. These meals will add 20 pounds to my waist alone. Quitting smoking is so hard. It'll probably rain and ruin the outing. You begin to get the idea? If your thoughts are on what you don't want, no matter how much you abhor the thought of what you don't want materializing into your life, you will act upon those thoughts, and more of what you don't want will keep showing up. Here's how to change this old habit. When you find yourself thinking a thought that focuses on what you don't want, no matter how insignificant it might be, stop right there and silently ask yourself, what do I want? That is, instead of thinking that your arthritis is going to get worse, which is precisely what you don't want, then change the thought to an intention. This arthritis is going to disappear from my life completely. Eventually, slowly but surely, you will begin to act upon this new intention, which is a faster energy, and this new intention will become your reality. You will do whatever you have to do to avoid suffering with your arthritis. You will not complain about it because you are no longer thinking of it as a problem. And miracle of miracles, your body, which is a system of energy, will react to your thoughts as well. But more important, you will be putting your energy on solutions. For instance, in a parking situation, your thoughts shift from, there will likely be no place to park, to, I'm looking for my parking place. Suddenly, you've stopped looking for no place to park, and the energy changes to accommodate you. The secret lies in the continuous reminder to yourself to first stop the outward verbal expression of what you don't want, second, catch yourself and examine the thought behind that expression, and finally, shift to an intention of what you will be creating for yourself, even if you don't know how you will create it, because ultimately, you will access higher and faster universal powers to provide you with the solutions. Here's another reason why it is so difficult for people to become problem eliminators and attract into their lives what they want. It is very easy to spend your energy on the circumstances of your life, or on what is. Even if you detest the circumstances of your life, if you place your energy on what it is that you despise, you will act on those thoughts, and those conditions which you despise will continue to manifest into your life. This is one of the most troubling energy areas to change, largely because you have very likely been surrounded by people who complain and whine about their life circumstances. Let's say you have very little money and you label yourself as poor. How much time do you spend thinking and talking about being poor, complaining about the circumstances under which you are forced to live, whining about the shortage of money? Keep this statement in mind if you are in this category of scarcity consciousness. You cannot manifest prosperity from thoughts of, I hate being poor. What is required of you is a shift from the energy of what is onto the energy of what you want and what you intend to create. Every time your thoughts are on the circumstances of your life which you dislike, shift to what you would like to experience as your present circumstances, and then make the big leap to higher spiritual energy by visualizing what you intend to create. This applies to everything in your daily life that you call a problem. You cannot manifest thin from thoughts of, I hate being fat. You cannot manifest purity from, I despise being an addict. You cannot manifest health from, I abhor being sick. In each of those assertions of what you dislike, you are giving of your thoughts to create more of the same. On the other hand, if you put your inner energy on your preferred self-picture, hold that vision as an intention, post your perfect weight in as many places as possible, and send love to yourself, surrendering to higher divine guidance to walk with you on your path to your ideal weight, you will act upon the new intentions, and you will have brought a higher energy spiritual solution to your weight status. If your energy, in the form of your thoughts, is on the illnesses or discomforts of your body itself will react to those thoughts. As Norman Cousins put it, the greatest force in the human body is the natural drive of the body to heal itself, but that force is not independent of the belief system. Everything begins with belief. The following principles represent my personal view on how your mind and your subsequent behavior can move you from toxic energy levels of the material world into the level of spirit, wherein lies the solution to any and all problems. Practice the presence of spirit. Practice awareness of the impossibility of being outside of the omnipresent spirit. Some ways of doing this are to remind yourself when you first awaken that this is a day that God will be with you at all times. Every meal you eat, be mindful of what it took for that food to reach your plate. When you make a phone call, drive in your car, or enter your workplace, begin to have this God realization. As you practice being mindful of the presence of the divine invisible spirit, you will notice a greater sense of peace, a stronger feeling of being safe and secure, a knowing that you are healthy and living from an inner sense of integrity. These feelings result from simply silently practicing, and I emphasize silently. No preaching and converting others to think as you do. Simply realize the presence of your source from which you are never truly separated, except in your own mind. Your mind is the substance of all matter. Take a look at your right hand. Would you describe it as intelligent? No, because intelligence is the mind that directs your hand to move, to grasp, to make a fist, or wave goodbye. Your hand responds to the directives of your mind. Now think about every other organ of your body, your heart, liver, spleen, all of which were created to act in accordance with the central divine intelligence within them. If you so elect, your entire body will respond to the directives of your mind. Direct, insist, demand if you must, that your mind be in harmony with the divine mind, and your energy will go from slow to fast, from material to spiritual, from problems to solutions. Mortal sense needs to yield to make room for spiritual awareness. When confronted with a problem, stop in the middle of it and remind yourself that God is on the field and that you can surrender to that realization. I received a letter from a woman who was diagnosed with cancer and given only a few months to live. She decided to keep this information from everyone she knew, including her husband and children. She rented a cabin in the northern Minnesota woods and spent every day silently yielding her mortal sense and opening herself to spiritual guidance. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, with every day devoted to communing silently with God and releasing her attachment to her body and the cancer that had invaded it. She began to feel stronger as she no longer identified herself with her body. When she returned to her home, she never again even visited a medical facility. Today she thrives some 9 years after her terminal illness diagnosis. The commitment to yield her mortal sense and allow the calm, peaceful, serene, loving presence of God to handle the cancer was what she intuitively felt was her pathway to healing. Send love to and pray for your enemies. Harboring anger and hatred toward anyone guarantees that you remain in low energy fields where problems will continue to crop up in your life. I suggest that you examine every relationship in which you feel judgmental thoughts of anger and hatred. Replace those thoughts with energies of acceptance, kindness, and love. You will have to make a personal commitment to, first of all, notice what you are feeling, and then exercise your ability to choose to send love. When your heart becomes pure, your enemy becomes your friend, or even more significantly, your teacher. Your worst enemies are your greatest teachers because they allow you to examine the emotions of anger and revenge, and then to transcend them. They give you the exact tools you need to elevate yourself to the spiritual energies that provide your solutions. God is not withholding. Imagine for a moment that you know a person who has stored away everything you want or need for your happiness, but refuses to let you have them unless you do his bidding, ask properly, and behave as he wants you to. Furthermore, this person can heal you of the disease, but allows you to suffer for now, and maybe will consider healing you at some future date. This would not be a very nice person, let alone a very nice God. Is this the kind of withholding God that you imagine the spiritual energy to be? In the scriptures it clearly says, "And everything I have is yours." These 6 little words may be the secret you've been looking for to raise your awareness to a spiritual level. Whatever solution you seek for whatever problem you may have is available to you in this moment. It is in you, not in some mythical Santa Claus-like being floating around in the heavens, dispensing goodies to some and baddies to others. You are always connected to this universal source of present moment energy. You are not being punished. Just as God does not withhold, God does not punish. The idea that God could be punitive is inconsistent with spiritual awareness. It is a mistake of the ego or the intellect to believe there is evil for which God must punish you. You correct an error by bringing truth to it. The idea that God will condemn you is not consistent with a God of forgiveness. You believe either in one power or two. The power of one is the power of love. Evil exists first as a thought of non-good or non-God, and then it is that thought which is acted upon. But it's all an error. If it's not good, it's not of God. And if it's not of God, it can't exist, since everything is of the one power we call God. You can correct all of the errors of your belief in separation from God by bringing that higher, loving energy to those areas of your life that are plagued with problems. They are not punishments. Rather, think of them as errors to be corrected. The power of God is a creative, sustaining power. Resist not evil means to not give any credence to evil as a power in the first place. Once you embrace the idea of one power, you commune with that power and let go of the illusion that a power other than that of God created your problems. Divine love will meet every human need. Mary Baker Eddy is responsible for these words being printed on the wall of every Christian Science church. Divine love will meet every human need. How is it possible to believe this? People continue to have many unmet needs in the presence of divine love. They feel divine love and still their problems and sicknesses persist. This statement does not imply, as many who wish for the resolutions to their problems assume, that divine love is out there doing it for you or to you. Divine love is something that you must express, and when you do, your every problem or need will be met. You cannot have God and have fear as well. Generally speaking, most people are afraid to become that which they can envision in their most glorious and perfect moments. Fear of your highest possibility keeps you from knowing God and living a life in which you can access spiritual solutions. Essentially, there are 2 overriding emotions, love and fear. And those 2 emotional states cannot be experienced simultaneously. Replace fear by simply allowing a feeling of love or the presence of God to reside right in that same ghostly spot where the fear was. Don't feel spiritual, be it.
You don't wander around all day feeling moral or honest. You simply are a moral person. If you consciously felt moral, you would be broadcasting it all day. Instead, you simply are honest and moral, and your behavior comes from within you. The same is true of your spirituality. Being spiritual is not an emotional accomplishment to praise yourself for. It is your way of being with God that is as natural as your health, morality, or even your artistic sense. Trying to feel spiritual is not the same as being it. By simply recognizing your connection to God and inviting that part of yourself to consciousness, you are raising your energy level to the level of spirit. But if you make yourself a pawn in a game of how mystical can I feel, you invite ego to begin to try to get more spiritual points than your opponents. It is that very elitist world of the lower vibrations that you want to leave behind. Don't try to feel spiritual. Just be it. God cannot be divided against God. God is an infinite power which cannot be fragmented or divided. That is, God cannot be available for some people and unavailable for others. God cannot be here one day and gone the next. He cannot be in anything that is evil and also be in that which is good. In defining God, all discussion disappears, and you have only the one, all-knowing, all-good, all-loving presence. When you find yourself in duality, you are in the physical world where you perceive yourself as laden with problems, and you seek solutions. Your ego insists the solution to being sick is to find health. The solution for scarcity is abundance, and the solution to pain is pleasure. It is not God that is divided into good versus bad, disease versus health. It is you. The absolute way to health, prosperity, and love is in knowing that disease, scarcity, or evil never can be acknowledged as having power. If you ask God to heal you, you are acknowledging that God made you sick. When you ask God for special favors, you acknowledge a God power that kept those favors from you. Instead of seeking benefits or favors from God, remind yourself to commune with this eternal presence that is in you. Bring this presence to the illusions that are in your mind called problems. Harmony is your normal, natural state of being. A mind imbued with ignorance or error will keep the body in a constant state of disrepair and problems. Harmony is your natural state of being, because when you are natural, you are in the hands of the one loving presence called God. It is your mind that creates problems for you. Your mind has the power to steer you through this lifetime and make it a marvelous voyage. When you reach spiritual peace, your mind and body are the instruments through which God energy flows. At this consciousness, there is no limit to what can be revealed to you. As you become more aware of your divinity, you will discover your abilities to remove illusions of illness, scarcity, and evil. This harmonious relationship with Spirit is your natural state of being. I never attempt to influence God, to ask for favors, or beg God to do something for me while I wait around and do nothing. Instead, I use prayer to open the gates of my soul to this divine presence.
Principles for changing your agreement with reality. And I want to just read you this from Hawkins' brand new book, The Eye of the Eye, E-Y-E of the Eye. And the first one of these is just simply the word attitude. And this is what he says about attitude. The way of spiritual advancement through consciousness is actually uncomplicated and simple. The primary quality is really one of attitude, in that one looks at life not as a place to acquire gain, but as an opportunity for learning which abounds even in the smallest of life's details. A spiritual attitude leads one to be friendly, kind, and well-meaning to all life. We find ourselves walking over an ant carefully rather than squashing it, not as a compulsive must or a religious rule, but out of a greater awareness of the value of all life. All animals will be discovered to actually be individuals who respond to respect and attention. Even plants are aware of it when you love and admire them. That's an attitude. That's the attitude I'm speaking about here. So the first word is attitude. The second is something that's a word that I like. It's called radical humility. Radical humility. That is, it is a
an easing up of the ego. Who I am is a piece of God. And as a piece of God, I am radically humble. That is, I have no need to make myself better than anybody else. I've often said that true nobility is not defined by being better than someone else. It's defined by being better than you used to be. The third is the ability to give love. The ability to give love. If you want to become a person who changes your mind and rewrites your agreement with reality, the ability to give it rather than to seek it. The fourth is an absence of judgment. To see if you can cultivate an attitude in your life in which you understand that when you judge another person, you do not define them. You define yourself as someone who needs to judge. That is just something that you define in yourself. That the absence of judgment, or the ability to suspend the judgment and rewrite your agreement from a non-judgmental way, will teach you how to resolve problems almost instantaneously. Most of your problems in relationships come from your unwillingness to let go of judgment. The next is giving up guilt. Guilt is nothing more than an attempt to manipulate the past and to make yourself feel less than whole because of anything that you might have done that you feel sorry about. Guilt I've called in Your Erroneous Sounds 30 years ago, I called it a wasted emotion. Because feeling guilty about something can only take place in the present. Now, if you do something that you don't like and you'd like to make amends about it, by all means do so. And if you do something that is wrong or unfortunate, or that you feel some shame about whatever, by all means make amends, and by all means work at not doing it again. But feeling guilty does nothing more than mean to have you using up the present moment, being immobilized in the present over something that already has taken place. And again, the past is the past. The next is called willingness, and it's probably the most important key. Willingness means I open myself up to the potential or the possibility of being able to create a problem-free life. Willingness is that whole idea of the first principle. I have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing. The idea that I will say to myself, these are the conditions in my life that I dislike, and I am willing to create an intention to change them. Willingness. And the next is letting go of resistance. Letting go of any resistance that you might feel. Most of your resistance to creating a world or a life in which you no longer are attracting the same kind of problems you have is rooted in other people's conditioning processes that you have bought into. Whether it's the conditioning process of the groups that you're a part of, or the family that you're a part of, or the cultural experiences that you've been told are the only way that you can behave or look at a problem. Letting go of all of that. Just, there's no resistance. I open myself up through meditation to be free from resistance. No resistance. And when you do, as they say in Sanskrit, when the student is ready, when you're really ready, readiness and willingness are the same. When you're ready and willing, whatever teachers you need will be there. They'll show up, and it works. It's just it's a universal principle. The next is called compassion. And compassion on the scale of consciousness is one of the highest forces that you can have. Because the final one of these qualities here on creating a new agreement, if you will, is called connectedness. Connectedness. A sense that every single one of us has some connection through this invisible force that flows through all of us. Compassion and connectedness. Rumi's observation. I, you, me, he, she, they. These are distinctions which do not exist in the garden of the mystics.
A Persian poet from back in the ancient times in the 13th century, his name was Jalaluddin Rumi. And Rumi has this observation that's been very important and very powerful to me. He said, "The morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep." Let me say it again. The morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. I'd like to take a poll. Just by a show of hands, I'd like to ask how many people in this room, and there's about 3,000 of us here tonight, I'd like to ask you, how many of you awaken at one time or another between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m.? Let me just see by a show of hands. And if you look around, you see that this is a universal experience. Now, what do you think that is? If everybody, almost everybody, awakens at some time between 3 and 4. Now, for some of us, we just interpret that as, all right, this is my age. I'll just run into the bathroom and I'll be right back. And you may make that visit several times a night. I don't know. But there's more to that. And I'd like you to, now of all of those people who raised their hand at this idea that you awaken sometime between 3 and 4 a.m., how many of you awaken at exactly the same time? Exactly the same time, with a little digital clock next to you. What is your time? 3:18. What is your time? 2:20. What is yours? 4:50. So like there's and this happens repeatedly over and over again. My time is 3:13. I awaken at 3:13 night after night after night. I look over, I've got this little clock. It's not an alarm clock, it's just a little digital clock. I just look over and it's 3:13 again and again and again. So what I had trained myself to do in the writing of this book, in the inspiration book, is to put my feet on the floor and say to myself, all right, you are going to awaken because here's what Rumi said, the morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Do you realize that between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, this is the time when you're closest to your source? This is the time when it's the quietest. It is the time when it's the most peaceful, when there are the least distractions. In A Course in Miracles it says the memory of God comes to the quiet mind. It cannot come where there is conflict. A mind at war with itself remembers not eternal gentleness. Eternal gentleness. That's what you came from. It beckons you back to be awake. It's the most creative time in your life. Try it. Take that moment that you are being called by your source and awaken, and force yourself to shake the cobwebs out. And if you can't, then put your feet on the floor and say, look, if I have to go back to sleep, I'm going to sleep with my feet on the floor. And after a while, that gets very uncomfortable, and you'll get yourself up. Now, when I do that and I get up, that is the most glorious time to be out there. And I go out onto the lanai, and I get this sense of this powerful feeling of inspiration. It's overwhelming to me. And I walk by my writing table, and it pulls me. It's pulling me towards it. It's almost beckoning me and saying, please, please come to me. I want you to, and I sit there sometimes, and I literally wonder, where is this coming from? The words, they just flow, and I sit there and I write by hand. And as I'm writing and allowing this to flow through my heart and onto the pages, I just think to myself, I wonder what's going to come next. I wonder when it's going to come next. It's almost as if God is saying, this is why you're here. And I can't get you any other time because it's just so busy, and there's horns bonked, and there's so many distractions. But here's a time when you can just be with me. Just be in spirit. Just be inspired. Inspirado. Be in this space with me. And I will then allow what creative juices that you have forgotten about because you edged me out for so much a part of your life. And here it is. And you'll find yourself getting the right ideas. Examining things that you never thought of before. Writing, some of you, I know you do it in your sleep many times, you write a poem and it'll be so phenomenal, and then you'll say, well, I'll remember that tomorrow. And then you get up and you can't get any of it. The morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Use those hours. And forget about the idea that, let's see now, I went to bed at 11. And if I get up at 3, that means 4 hours, so I'm going to be 4 hours deficient all day long. I'm not going to be... Forget that. You've got an eternity to sleep. An eternity to sleep. And when you learn to meditate and get quiet and get peaceful, you can always, in 20 minutes time of meditation, any time during the day, get the equivalent of a full night's sleep. Don't go back to sleep. There is a place and a possibility that miraculous things can happen, but you have to, in order to banish the doubt, in order to heal this energy body that I'm speaking about here, you have to be in such a position that you're not asking. You're not coming from a ordinary place asking someone extraordinary to do something for you. That's sort of what we've learned in our religious model, that God is outside of us, something like a cosmic bellboy, that if we just sort of ask it to do something for us and we behave and we pay a certain amount of money and we go to the right temples and we do the right things, that this external being will then provide us with favors, and that this God has the ability to heal, but it withholds it depending upon what mood it's in and so on. And that's a very different concept that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a concept of God that says that we are all pieces of God. Like T.S. Eliot said, we shall not cease from exploring. And at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time, to know it. You don't have to die to do this. You can know it here. You can know it now. You can say to yourself, as the I Am discourses say over and over and over again, the I Am is the divine work of God. And you are capable of saying I am. And you don't want to add anything after I am that isn't consistent or harmonious or in rapport with God. That is the all-creating knowing, the all-knowingness. We all know everything. There's a higher self within each and every one of us. There's a highest self which is omniscient and omnipotent, all-powerful, and everywhere at once. And the Creator, according to Mikhail Ivanov, a great teacher of the White Brotherhood, that is white light, not white skin, okay? I could get nervous when I say that. But it's and this teaching of the initiatic sciences, which I've been studying for the last couple of years in depth, reading and studying and meditating on a regular basis, that God places within each and every one of us a spark of Himself. Most organized religion has taught that we know and we're the conduit, we're the ones that can give you access to God. You have to do it through us, through our organization, through all of the kinds of teachings that we have. And I'm suggesting that you don't need that at all. So it's it's an awareness that there's something, something so powerful that we're capable of, and that there is a highest self within each and every one of us. And this highest self is, religion doesn't teach it. Religion has not taught that because it's been so much about power. So, when we're talking about the conflicts that are going on here in the Balkans, where we are right now, off to Medjugorje tomorrow, so much of it is about religion. So much of it is about, Christians and Muslims and fighting and all of this kind of thing over these ideas. And I'm suggesting to you that Jesus was saying, you are God's. And you have to be able to say, I am. And anything that you want to place your attention on, if you want to overcome an addiction, if you want to lose the weight that you've had for as long, if you've been overweight for most of your life, if you want to attract prosperity and wellness into your life, if these are something that you really want for yourself, truly, if you want it for yourself, you have to declare it. And it's not about asking. It's about commanding.